Good morning and welcome to the Nave Museum's Children's Art Classes. I'm Diana Callis, I'm the Operations Manager here at the Nave. We're going to be introducing you to our new Art Education Director, Claire Santillana, shortly. But before we get ready for our actual art lesson, let me share with you a few interesting facts about the Nave Museum and about the artist that we have on display right now. The Nave Museum was built in 1932 in memory of Royston Nave, who was a well-known painter in the area. He also had some success while he lived in New York, so we were very happy to have him back in the Victoria area when he came back. He died unexpectedly in 1931, and his wife had this building built in his memory to house his paintings. Over the years, it became the first library in Victoria, and now it is a fine arts museum. It is the oldest fine arts museum in the Crossroads area. Admission is always free, so we want to encourage you all to tell your parents about us, and y'all come in and see the marvelous display of paintings that we have from Royston Nave. We happen to have our own collection of Royston Nave paintings on display right now. They have been the subject of all of these classes since the pandemic has us doing online classes. Today we're going to feature Lily Pond, or 5 Painters Upon the Shore. You're going to be working again with your oil pastels, and I'm going to let Claire take over from here and teach you the techniques to create your very own Lily Pond picture.
And I'm working here today with the Nave Museum, and I want to introduce this painting. It is Lily Pond, 5 Painters Upon the Shore. And when I'm looking at this painting, I'm noticing there are some horizontal lines going this way that Mr. Nave created with his paintbrush. I'm also noticing some vertical lines. I see lots of vertical lines, and then look at these, they go sideways, they go at a diagonal. And he did that all with his paintbrush, so we're going to work on that today. I'm also noticing the colors. There's a lot of natural colors in this painting. He used greens and browns and some blue, and on the water there's lots of blue. And then there's one pop of red that's a bright red right here, and it's almost orange. And this is one of the painters, and that is a focus of the painting because it is the 5 painters upon the shore. So that might be why he made that painter stand out so much. And they're really the only non-organic thing, like the non-plant life and natural scene thing in the painting are the people. I also see that he did use different techniques with his brush strokes. So over here he's got more of a daubing technique, and he does have longer brush strokes in some areas and shorter brush strokes in some areas. So now we are going to create this painting with oil pastels. Mr. Nave used oil paints, and oil pastels are also oil based. So I think it'll be really fun to do that. So let's go try. So this is a printout that was included in your packet. If you don't have a packet, that's okay. You can just screenshot this printout. Or you can just follow along, that's fine too. If you are interested in getting a packet next time and you live near Victoria, Texas, just call the Nave at 361-575-8228, or you can email d.callis, that's D like dog, .KALLUS @navemuseum.com. And she will be able to give you more information on when those packets are released that give you free art supplies so that you can follow along with our lessons. So here is my example, and I actually did not use these oil pastels that were included in the packet when I made this. I had a different brand of oil pastels, but it still turned out okay, I think. And if you don't have any oil pastels and you're watching, feel free to use just crayons, because those are made of wax and they will create the same effect if you make some layers. And layers means you color it and then you color it again. That's a layer. Okay, so I need to find where my horizon line is. I usually describe the horizon line as where the sky meets the earth. In this case, it's this line right across right here. So I'm gonna try to measure that with my paper a little bit. And I'm gonna hold my paper up, and it's about right here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a line across. I'm using a black oil pastel. You might wanna use yellow because it'll look lighter and it won't be hard to cover up later, but I really want you to see it. That's why I'm gonna use black. So there's my horizon line. It's a horizontal line going across. And this is the shaded area of the trees, and you can see under that it's mostly water. Then I'm gonna add any big shapes I see. I see a big circle right there. So I'm just gonna make sure I have my circle noted. I see some little bushes, so I'm gonna put my little bushes. And then over here, this is a shape. I don't know if you can see how it's kind of a circle. So I'm gonna note the grass with my oil pastel. And I'm gonna note this shape. You can see it comes across. It's not a circle or a square or a triangle. It's an organic shape. So the shape is silly. It doesn't make any sense, but it's still a big shape, as you can see there. So I'm gonna note that shape as well. And this shape starts a little below this big grass shape. So I'm gonna start it a little below that, and I'm gonna do this where I think the lily pads are. Does it have to be exactly like this? No, it doesn't. We are just having fun right now. It does not have to be perfect. It doesn't have to look exactly like it. You could change your lily pads to look different than my lily pads or different than Mr. Nave's lily pads. I see some lily pads over here too. So I'm gonna make a little note of this shape as well right there. And I don't know if you see that, but in the reflection in the water, everything's mirrored. So the people here are mirrored here. The person here is mirrored here. There's a reflection because they're standing next to the water. So now that I have my main shapes in there, and if you want to get a little more detail with your shapes, you can. There's a tree coming down over here. There's a little tree over here. But you're going to see that as you go along as well. So now I have the colors from my packet here. You can be creative. I made this one with less colors. I only used red, yellow, green, blue, brown, and a little purple. But this packet did have a few more colors than that. I don't want you to stress if you don't have the packet. I just want you to have fun, okay? So now I'm gonna take my yellow because I do see a lot of bright yellow in this. And if you mix yellow with green, it makes yellow green. And if you mix yellow with blue, it makes a green. And so I'm gonna use the yellow first, and I'm just going to try to put yellow where I see some light green. And my yellow has a little green on it already, so it might already come out with some light green on it. And it's gonna mix with that black that I used because I did use black for the outline. But as I put more layers, I'm hoping it'll cover it up. So I added some of that yellow and putting some green on top. You can see my black line because it's a black oil pastel and they do mix together. That's the neat thing about oil pastels. I'm not upset about it. It's okay. I think it's gonna look cool. So we're just gonna keep rolling with that. And if you mess up, it's okay too. I would just keep going and just see what happens. I always tell my students not to give up until their picture's all the way finished. And I know sometimes it's easy to get frustrated if it doesn't look exactly how you wanted it to look. But sometimes really great art is created that way. So with this bush over here, it has vertical lines, but I'm gonna really focus on those horizontal lines. This line is horizontal. You can see the horizontal movement right here. So that's what I'm gonna color first with my pastel. That's why I'm choosing to color those areas. And I like this peach color, and you don't even have to use the same colors as me. If you want to make yours monochromatic, that might look really neat. Monochromatic means it's all one color. You just use black and white to make it lighter and darker too. So I'm using this peach color. I'm going to use some yellow. I'm doing kind of little circles because they're lily pads. So I'm doing little circles as I create this, like this. and I'm going across. And now I'm gonna add a few little pieces of grass, which are kind of vertical lines, but that's okay because it's part of my bigger shape that is more of a horizontal line. So I'm doing that. Just moving right along here. I'm adding some darker green. What is the complementary color to green? It's red. So I'm gonna add a little red because when you mix complementary colors together, you actually make a little bit of a shadow, but it lets your picture still be nice and bright because you're not dulling it down with too much black and gray. And a lot of the best artists, that's what they do. They mix complementary colors. So, I'm gonna put a little red in there, little pops of red a little bit just to give it a shadow. But I'm mixing my red with green, and I'm mixing more green than red because I still want it to kind of look green. But I think this green goes across over here too, so I'm just gonna add that right on in there. Still focused on my horizontal movement here. I see, and I'm also gonna go back and add my little lily pads here. So still circular, still working on lily pads. And I'm switching between yellow, the light green, the dark green, and what was that complementary color again? Red. I'm gonna add some in the water. I see green in the water. And it's horizontal, still focused on horizontal. That's gonna make it look more watery. It doesn't look exactly like Mr. Nave's painting, but that's okay. I still like it. I see some green up here. Still part of the water, still horizontal looking movement. Now down here at the bottom, I do see lots of green. I see brown. There's some brown down here, so I'm gonna add some brown. It's a dark brown, and this is a lighter brown that I'm using. And I see a lighter brown over here that's mixed with green kind of, so I'm just gonna try to put that in, and it just makes it look like a reflection. When you look up close at Mr. Nave's paintings, you'll see he actually used a lot of color. And I know at the Nave they'd love you to come see in person some of his paintings. Let's see. Now add some more green, some darker green. I'm gonna add some green over here. I see lily pads. They're a little more detailed the closer up you get. So they look a little more like circles over here on this side. So I'm adding some circles, putting those lily pad circles in there. I'm adding different types of green, dark and light green. What if I wanted to make these look even like a darker green? You got it, red. Still using red, my complement. And I see some little areas of darker green that have some depth here. Just gives it a little depth. That's an art word for makes it look deeper, makes it look more 3D-ish. So I'm gonna add my brown in here. There's still lots of little green lily pads pretty much everywhere, so I'm just adding those in. It takes some patience to add all those lily pads in, but it looks really cool when you're done, so it's worth it. And you can be fast at it. You can do fast circles and it still looks neat. There's no wrong way to do it. See, I'm moving faster. I see a little red over here too. It's not as bright as the man, but it is there, and I think that kind of balances the picture to add some red. I think that might be one reason why he did that. So I'm going to add some red. Going back to my brown, and I'm going to do this next. After I've already done the horizontal, I will add the vertical, because to me this grass is on top of, in front of the lily pads a little bit in the picture, so that's why I'm doing it that way. And I want to make this brown a little darker, so I'm going to try putting a little blue and see if it makes it look like a darker brown. In this picture I actually added purple to make my brown look darker. This time I'm going to add blue. And the water's blue, so that makes sense too. And I'm still, the main thing you're doing is going in one direction. If you are going in horizontal direction, it'll look neat. And I'm moving faster and it still looks okay. So, like I said, if you're getting tired of doing these little intricate little circles, move faster. Just move faster, it's okay. Notice how I'm putting layers on there to cover up these little white spots. I'm doing some layering effects here by putting multiple times that I'm coloring on there. That's a layer. Coloring on top of that blue with the brown. And it makes it kind of look like a darker brown. So now I want to show you how you can go on top of this to make the grass. And now I'm going up and down. Up and down is vertical. Up and down. And I'm going to add some yellow. I have green. We're going up and down, up and down. And I'm pressing kind of hard, but not hard enough to break my pastel. I don't want to break it. Because if you press hard, it does kind of fill in those little white spots that you'll start to see. I'm going to add a little gray. Does not have to be just like Mr. Nave's, like I said. I'm kind of just having fun. I'm just going with it. And now I'm going up from the middle to make it look more like grass. So over here, I still see vertical lines. I see vertical lines for this plant that's reflecting in the water. The reflection we talked about earlier. But I also see a lot of horizontal lines, and this is where I see a lot of water over here. So I'm going to color my water in like this. It has some white spots, that's okay. It might look really cool if you do gray on top. Or if you think the water looks more green, add a little green on top. Just experiment and see what happens. A lot of the great artists figured out what they liked by experimenting and just trying new things. So I'm filling in some of this blue. I don't want to go too far over here because I don't want to forget my people and the reflection that they're casting. So I'm gonna move down here. I do that a lot when I draw. I might move around my picture depending on what I'm working on, what I'm focused on. I colored white right there. I'm gonna put a little blue on top of that white. It's not gonna look the same as over here. So that's where I didn't put any white, and that's where I did put white. See how it looks different? It gives it a different effect when there's white first than when you do blue first. Now let's do blue with white on top and see what it does. Looks a little different. So this is white with blue on top, and that's blue with white on top. And over here, I'm gonna go back and add some little white areas because I see that in Mr. Nave's painting. And I'm not adding too much, I'm just adding a little bit just for, let's add interest. Let's add interest by just mixing it up. So I'm going back to my blue over here. I do see a little brown spot off to the side, so I'm gonna add that. And add some circles with the peach. I'm gonna add a little blue on top of that to kind of give it depth, make it look a little darker. There we go. And I'm gonna add some green. I see green vertical lines, actually a few, if you look really closely on top, almost like they're reflecting in the water, just a little bit. I'm gonna go back with my gray on top of that blue. I did a nice layer of blue there, so when I put the gray on top, it still looks more blue than over here, because over here I did less blue. Just depends on what you want. There's more than one right way to paint a picture. Or draw a picture in this case. Now over here it does get darker, so I am gonna put a little more blue. And the complement to blue is orange. So that means that color is across from blue on the color wheel, and it's going to make a darker blue. A little bit of orange with a lot of blue makes a darker blue. But again, without having to use black or gray. And so it keeps our picture nice and bright. Now I'm just going in, I'm just adding blue, but what direction am I still going in? I'm still coloring horizontally. It's very important to make it look like water that you go horizontally. And they can be messy, getting a little messy, but that's okay. It's half the fun of art, right? It's just making a mess sometimes. But don't make too big of a mess, especially on your kitchen table. Still going horizontal. Still just filling it in. Now I'm going to go back with a little bit of my white. Add some reflection. I might have to peel my oil pastels. It has paper around it. So I'm going to have to peel mine. Oops, I broke mine. See, you can be too rough with it. That happens. But now I have a little piece I can use and a big piece. There's two pieces now. So we're going to roll with that. That's fine. And over here, what was my opposite color blue on that color wheel? The complementary color, it was orange. So I'm going to add a little orange. Still trying to make that darker blue. because I noticed over here it's darker on this side than on the other side. There we go. Go back with this blue again. I'm trying to fill in, I like to fill in all the little white spaces. Sometimes you can leave those on purpose and that's okay. Maybe that's your style. Everybody has their own art style that they like to draw with and color with. And some people don't know their style yet, you just haven't discovered it yet. I see some more horizontal, just a few little lines there to give it a reflection. And we're still building this picture. With oil pastels, sometimes it's like you're building it. I'm gonna go do my people now because I just wanna fill this in. I'm in the mood to fill that in. So I'm gonna go ahead up here to my people. One person is standing right here. So to me, that seems the easiest place to start. And this person, if you measure your picture, let's say we divide it in half, there's the halfway point. He's standing a little to the right of the halfway point. So I'm gonna look at my picture, where's the middle? It's about right here. And that's where I'm gonna draw this guy. Standing a little bit to the right of the halfway point. He's wearing black pants and a white shirt. You know, my oil pastel was dirty, so the white didn't come out white. I'm not upset. That's okay. And this might, I don't know, maybe this is a woman, I have no idea. Or maybe a man wearing a hat, I can't tell. It's an impression of a person though, we definitely see that. And over here I see a person, seems to be wearing a blue shirt, some pants, so I'm gonna add that. It's a little hard to make out their face or anything. They're all the way over there across this body of water, so they're really far away, really hard to see. That looks like a person right here. Add that person in. This looks like a person sitting next to them. I used peach. Maybe their outfit looks more yellow to you. Use what you think. You can change their clothes. You can put whatever kind of clothes you think they should be wearing. This guy or girl over here, this person, I'm gonna make them have their bright red because I do like the way Mr. Nave made that different than the rest of the painting. Kind of stands out. I put a little yellow on top and add that. I guess that's their head. I don't know. Maybe it could be. Maybe that's their stuff. I can't tell. I can't tell what it is because it's across the water. But now mine looks like a person, so I'm gonna go with that. And I'm gonna put the reflection because it does reflect in the water. I'm gonna make my reflection match what I drew there. It doesn't look exactly like the picture, and that's okay. And once again, these are suggestions of what's above. They're kind of muddled, they're in the water. So I'm gonna give a hint of what's above reflecting into the water. It's not perfect because water does muddle it. Muddle makes it not look exactly how it looks in real life. It's muddled. It's muddy a little bit, but it's not muddy, it's muddled. There we go. Have my little reflection in there now, so now I can kind of have fun filling that in with my blue. I go with my blue now. I'm gonna fill it in like that. Just gonna have fun with this. Still moving horizontally because my water was painted horizontally by Mr. Nave, and it does really make something look like water when you paint it horizontally like that or draw it horizontally. Brush strokes in one motion. go with my gray. I'm gonna go on top of this. Just fill it in there. I don't want my reflections to be too lost, so I'm kind of gonna go around them with the gray instead of right over them like I did with the blue earlier. I just don't want to lose them all the way because it is a layering effect, so it could end up covering them up if you could do it too much. Like my original black line that I had earlier, it's starting to get a little covered up. Still going horizontally, moving in that direction. Now, if you didn't want to get your hands all dirty, you could definitely work from the top down. If you're right-handed, you might want to work this way instead of this way. And also, if you're left-handed, you might start on this side and work this way if you didn't want to have your hands dirty, if that's something that bothers you. I'm always messy with art, so it doesn't bother me. I like to skip around my drawing. Everybody's different. So I feel like mine's filled in enough. If it really bothered me that there were some white dots and stuff, I could go back and keep on layering, keep adding those layers in if it really was just bothering me. So I'm gonna add some yellow here. Coming in. This plant right here is kind of in front of the back. So now I'm gonna switch to what's behind the people. And I see some yellow. I see yellow. I see more of a tan color, like a slightly off-white color. And so I'm gonna use what I have to try to make those colors pretty similar. They don't have to be exact like we talked about. And I see the highlights. Again, it's just the shapes like we did at the beginning. There's a shape, there's a shape, that's a shape. Just look at the shapes that you see for the highlights. Focus on the highlights and try not to think of them as highlights. There's also people right here I see now. See, I didn't even notice that earlier when I did the other one. I didn't see that there were some little figures right here, so I'm gonna add those in or something. Maybe that's rocks. There's definitely something there that I didn't see before. So I'm just gonna do a suggestion of whatever that is. And I'm gonna keep focusing on those little shapes that we had just talked about. I see light here, I see some light here, switch to my peach. You don't have to switch to peach, you could use white or yellow. Or you can mix peach and white, or mix yellow and white and see what colors it makes and see if you like those colors more. I'll do it a little bit too. Just remember, if your oil pastel has a color like that has red, it'll show. So if that's gonna upset you, you might wanna make sure you're using the clean side of the oil pastel. Some people are very particular, and that's okay. Now we're gonna add in this brown that we see in the background. And earlier, how did we make our brown darker? We added a little blue. So I'm gonna add a little blue to make it darker. And brown, this brown is really close to orange, and that's why I picked blue, because blue and orange are complementary colors. So it does make it a little bit of a darker brown when you do that. Now I'm just filling it in because it has a lot of shadows where those trees are casting shadows. I don't know if you've ever been to Riverside Park where all those oak trees are there and you can pick pecans, and whenever the trees have the light above them, they cast a shadow and you see little patches of sunlight. I think that's what that is in this picture. This painting by Mr. Nave. or if you've been to any park, it doesn't have to be Riverside Park. Any park where there's a lot of trees. In Texas, we have these pecan trees, so love picking pecans. But I'm just kind of filling in to make it a little bit of a darker brown over here, but not all the way in, because I kind of like it the lighter brown. Personally, I think it looks neat. You do need some patience. Just take your time, have fun. I go back with my blue again, make it that darker color. Just kind of add that in there. If you want some trees, you can just use any color and add the trunks in and it'll look neat. See, I did blue. You could do a little shadow. You could have done, I could do red. They're just fun when they're different colors sometimes in the background. I think this tree is purple. This fallen tree, I did purple. You could go over it with even the gray oil pastel if you wanted. And I'm gonna go ahead and just fill that in a little bit more, but then I'm gonna put foliage. Foliage is the green leaves and stuff, and bring that down. So now I'm gonna go with my greens and my maybe yellow to make it a light green. This is a light green. But we could make it this light green even lighter if we add a little yellow. And I'm doing kind of a circular motion like this to fill it in. Just filling that in. What do I mix with green again to make it darker? What's something I could mix? The complementary color red. So I can mix that red in there if I wanted, just to give it a little more depth, make it look a little more 3D here. If I want. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe I like it the way it is, that's okay. See how it made it that dark green? So I'm just trying to make it look kind of like a tree over here. And there's some trees coming down here. Just add those in. And you can add the whole top in with green if you wanted to. You could make this brown part go up higher if that's what you wanted. And I'm gonna do this tree. I'm gonna do another tree coming out. I'm gonna do the fallen tree behind it. And use maybe some more of that blue just to make it look like different trees. Over here, I'm gonna do some more. I'm gonna color this all green. And I'm doing that weird little circular motion again to try to make it look like a tree a little bit. Doesn't have to be perfect. And this bush, I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. It's gonna make it look like a bush. I'm going vertical now, I'm doing vertical lines. Just filling it in. I'm gonna add a little yellow on top. I'm gonna add a little gray on top. And it looks like a little bush. And I could go back over this bush if I wanted to make it bigger. There's so much I could do to just keep going if I wanted or stop if I wanted. It's just up to you and it's your picture. I'm gonna tap mine and I think I feel finished. So I'd really love to see what you created, and I know the Nave would too. Don't forget to submit last week's art and this week's art. We'd love to see what you created, and there's a few small prizes for some of you lucky artists.